Before we begin today's episode, we want to take a moment to let you know that this conversation contains discussions of suicide ideation as well as verbal and physical abuse. These are important topics that deserve to be talked about openly, and we are grateful to our guest for her courage and vulnerability in sharing her story. However, we want to make sure you can take care of yourself first. If any of these topics are difficult for you, please feel free to pause, step away, or listen with a trusted person nearby. Your well being matters most. With that, let's get into today's episode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Tower Yoga Podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Kellee. Today, I'm really excited to introduce you to one of our newer teachers, not a new teacher, but a newer teacher to Tower Yoga, Alorha Baga. Welcome, Alorha.
Hey there. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I am really excited to see you and see all your artwork behind you. Maybe we can get into that a little bit as we get to know you some more. Here at Tower Yoga, something that really matters to us is, of course, like holding space, not just with what's being taught, but how it's being offered. So this is a chance for all of the listeners out there to get to know you, Alorha, a little bit better, maybe a little bit more personally. I'm so happy that you took the time to be here. So thanks again. I always like to get started with asking people about their backgrounds, just telling us a little bit about yourself and anything that you would want the listeners to know about you. Yeah, so this is your chance.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Alorha Baga, and yes, I am an artist. I am a yoga teacher, and I have taught Native American dance for 15 years for my husband's tribe. And my origins, I come from the Rosebud Sioux tribe in South Dakota, and I do have 3 adult children and a 7-month-old granddaughter now. And it's been quite a journey being a human, experiencing, or the spirit basically experiencing this human form and being able to be present with all of you guys, whether in the space at Tower or showing off my beadwork, dancing at powwows, sharing my art. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. It all comes together in the creative, what we're doing, Leela, right? It all comes together in that divine creation, that divine play. And I think that's something that resonated with me when you were encouraging us to share a common theme if that's what we wanted to do for the whole studio, for their classes. And that is something that has been resonating with me and my cat. Is that divine play, that divine creativity, because I think that's the essence of what I do a lot in my life.
That's amazing. And listeners would know too, if you have been keeping up with the most recent podcast, that last month in March, it was that theme of divine play, which obviously I do feel like you embody so much, is really cool. And you feel that even in your classes. What was life like for you before yoga came in?
Life before yoga came in. Well, I think that maybe a lot of people experience yoga without even knowing it, because it's a sense of finding your inner center, your Hochilkan, your inner self, right? Many, many different aspects. So life before yoga, my life before yoga has been form of trial and tribulation, trauma. In a sense, my grandmother raised me, and I am a product of abuse from my parents abusing drug and alcohol. I'm one of the first cases for ICWA here in the state of California, Indian Child Welfare Act, for those who don't know. And it was something that has been, I guess you say, I wouldn't say I wasn't lost. I was lost without yoga, and you can cut some of the stuff out. But life before yoga, basically beautiful through my grandma. She was my center, my grounding, because she raised me. But also too, when I came into yoga, and we'll probably get into that a little bit more, it's something that helped me overcome verbal abuse from family members, from feeling that I wasn't important enough because I was a burden on my grandma, So there's those aspects there, trying to not get too deep into that part of life. And then getting into teaching dance, Native American dance. That was also my centering point too, as well as the culture, because of my grandma, because of my family too, that have brought the culture, traditions, ceremonies into my life. And then also teaching it and sharing that with my grandma, sharing that from my grandma, with my grandma, and with my family members at the time has been a saving grace as well. So if that all makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think a lot of times it's not always the case. Sometimes it's just a curiosity, but I think that it's more common than not that people find yoga or yoga finds them. to be something that helps lift them out of really challenging
Exactly.
karma, you could call it, you know?
Yeah.
But when was that when was that when was the point where you actually, like, discovered yoga and then, like, started teaching? Was there a certain, like, moment that made you interested? And then, like, did you know instantly you wanted to also teach, or was that a while after?
So when I first discovered yoga, like the epiphany of me of the discovery part of it was when I was in my first 200-hour yoga teacher training. And we were asked, how did you get in? When did you get into yoga? When did you start doing yoga? And I had to really sit back and think. And I'm like, well, we knew of yoga in high school. I knew of it growing up because my family members would go. When I discovered that pivotal mark of me practicing doing yoga, and this is going to be something that's might be alarming to others or might just open people's hearts or might be like, oh my God, I didn't know that about you, Laura. I was going through verbal abuse from one of my aunts because she at the time was caring for my grandma and caring for me. And because of what my father and my mother did to me, and then my grandma took and raised me, she's seen I was a burden. So there's all that abuse, that verbal abuse, and even a little bit of physical. And one day, I remember that I could still remember in the top of like in my mind's eye. I was laying on my bed. I didn't have a headboard, so it was up against the wall, and I had gone through some crap with her. And I'm laying on the bed. I put on one of my cassette tapes, telling my age now. And it was a flute music, and I was in tears. I didn't know what to do with myself. I have been contemplating suicide. And so I laid and I put my legs up the wall and I put on the music. I let myself feel, I let myself experience, cry, all of that. I let myself breathe.
Mm.
And I let myself just go center inward.
Mm.
And I thought about the most important thing in my life. And that was like my grandma gave her best part of her years, her elder years, to raise me, to care for me. So if I went through suicide, if I killed myself,
Mhm.
then that would hurt her. And so I thought about the cause and effect of that. Like that would not honor her. It would just, take me out of the situation, but it would never honor her, honor what
And that
she
was
did.
important to you.
Yes, and that was very much important to me. And then so when I thought about in my teacher training and I went to that moment, I realized, wow, that was doing yoga there. I was going center. I was allowing myself to experience. I was allowing myself to breathe. I was allowing myself to meditate basically through it all. And so that's
Thank you for
where
sharing.
yeah. And that's where I realized that yoga came to me when I needed to, when I needed it. And that's when I first experienced it, not the asana, basically, but the physical.
Yeah, and I mean, asana is actually like, the newest limb of the 8 and all that kind of stuff. But first of all, also just thank you so much for sharing and being so like brave and vulnerable, because I do think that it can be a very like, obviously it's sensitive, and,
Mhm.
we'll make sure that people know it's a sensitive like interview, but it's also taboo to talk about when it's just alarming how many people do live with this and suffer with this and have these moments. And so to be able to like put voice to it, especially as someone who is a space holder, like I do hope that even if there's just, someone on the other end like listening to this, to know that like you belong and there is a place and a space for you to feel that you don't have to show up perfect, and that yoga is here for you, and especially like those moments too. And I do think that when you feel you feel a call to sort of like share your story, like just have to believe that there is a reason why that message needs to be sent out, and that you need to put voice to it. So I don't know who's out there that just needs to be like touched by your story and it's going to help them, but I just feel so deeply in my bones right now that like someone really needed to hear that. And I also think that if we're introducing you and your story, like that is a part of it. There is no reason why we shouldn't include that if you're comfortable to share it. And because again, it's more prevalent now than ever in this day and age, like where what we're living through and in and all that kind of stuff. And like yoga it's not a magic like pill that makes everything like go away or change your whole life, but like it does help. It
Yeah.
really
And
does.
I can really say it helped. Like that
Yeah.
moment, that experience really, really helped. And then, going into teacher training, I started like I love just looking at different spiritualities, religions and stuff and stripping them down and like really getting to them, stripping them down and looking at everything is very similar. You strip away all the meat and potatoes from it, basically, it's all the same. It's all
Uh-huh.
the same. And so getting into that, I'm like, okay, so I experienced yoga. It saved me. And that's when I first experienced it. And then I started looking into like the energetics of it, like how much it affects the physical, but mostly the energetics, because that's where it affects you first, energetics, then it follows the physical.
So it like definitely was dancing. You were dancing with this like the transmissions of the teaching before you had a
Mhm.
name to it, before you ever did a
Exactly.
posture, before you maybe even knew anything about the philosophy, you were experiencing it.
Exactly. And so the energetics of it, experiencing it. Yeah. So that's my origin story. A person that has spoke at like Native American women's wellness conferences and shared my story and more to it than what I shared here. I think it's very important to give that space to someone to talk and stop
Yeah,
making these thoughts of suicide and all stuff like that like something like, oh God, it's got to be in the shadows, it's got to be here, it's got to be hidden because it's bad. Yes, we go through it. Yes, at the time, whatever is going through, I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's just an experience that is going to take you to another realm or whatever. It's hard to explain it. It's not easy to explain,
yeah,
but it needs the voice, it needs the space, it needs the room for that we can give other people the time and chance to talk because it could
for
save someone.
sure. For
Mhm.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure. And I would say just like knowing you, you are such a yeah, deep breath.
Mhm.
You're such a natural like teacher. And so I'm sure you were teaching in formal and informal ways way before you became a yoga teacher. But like what led you to doing that first teacher training and like wanting to, did you know you wanted to teach or were you just trying to deepen your practice?
So what led me to it? Because at the time I was teaching Native American dance, and there's a transition of me resigning and stepping into the yoga teacher. But I was my friend, one of my good friends, and her daughter and my daughters were on the same dance competition team. And she's like, you know what? A new studio opened up in Hanford. You want to go with me? I come to yoga with me. I'm like, sure, fine. I love yoga. Let's go. And the yoga teacher, she's like, I have an announcement and I'm just throwing this out, planting seeds. If it's for you as a student or as a future teacher, then it'll resonate. So she introduced that she's teaching her first yoga teacher training. And if anybody wants to contact her, she's open to set up time to have the interview, all of that good stuff. So I was like, me, like right away, me,
Who did you do that training with?
Luciana Borba. So Sojourn here in Hanford.
Yes.
Yes.
And I know her because way before I owned Tower Yoga, I worked at the yoga studio she did her teacher training at, and she was one of my
Yeah.
students.
Okay.
So now I'm aging myself, but to be fair, I got into teaching very young. I literally was like, I didn't know what I was going to do in my life. I never really wanted to like do a job, not because I'm like lazy or don't think I should have to. And I definitely needed to. I wasn't like a trust fund kid or anything like that. But, like I just looked around and people are like, I want to be this or I want to be that. And I would have to make stuff up to like not be left out. But I like knew in my heart, I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, and the
Yeah.
first job I ever thought I could do that was being a yoga teacher. And I was like 17. And so I just freaking went all in on that at a
Yeah.
really young age. But no, so I remember Luciana. I remember because she had a kid named Sam, and she would always tell us his Samisms and like little things he would say. And they were like, I think I like would teach yoga classes based on them sometimes because they were really profound. Which he's probably like an adult now, but yeah. So that's great how it's like full circle. So we're connected. I mean, we're all connected, but like literally we're connected through like different people. And then you and I also met way after that. I hadn't known that you went and did that teacher training, but we met in
Mhm.
Sacramento at like a Booty Yoga teacher training. And so we've been vibing for a long time too. That's just a little extra background knowledge for any of the students listening that I actually met Alorha a long time ago, probably like 8 or 9 years ago now.
Mhm.
And we would like keep in touch here and there. And then you would come in, and if you were in Fresno, you would like take class. And as a student, you've been a part of the community for quite some time. And I really appreciate that, you interfaced with us as a community and you made sure that it was like something that you resonated with and also you saw that there could be a need for what you offer, I don't mind if people just kind of cold call me and ask if they can teach for me. But if they've never been to the studio, or especially if they're like been a friend of mine for a long time and they've never come to the studio, but then all of a sudden want to teach a class, it's a little funky to me. I'm like, oh, not to say I would never be cool with that, but
It's
yeah,
beyond you.
it's peculiar.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's beyond you because you set the space for the community. So it's beyond you. It's like being present as the person offering into the community. Have they stepped into the community that is created, co-created through teachers, through other students and stuff like that. So I understand where you're going with that.
Yeah, it's a reciprocal thing. And so, because it's like, you might not actually even like the vibe of, our culture at the, as far as like a studio goes and stuff like that. So it's not just me, like you might not be a right fit. It's like, we might not be a right fit. It's like, let's kind of feel it out a little bit. But anyways, it doesn't have to be a this or that comparative thing. But all that to say is I appreciate the way that you like engaged and then came forward. And it was actually it was so funny because I was like, no, I don't think we're really hiring, but like, I'll keep that in mind. And like, literally the next week we had some weird stuff happen with the schedule and we needed a teacher. And I was like, I know who.
Yeah, that was like I believe in like manifesting or planting seeds and we don't know when they're ever going to fruition, but if you plant that seed, it's going to fruition some way somehow. And I think I planted that seed long before I even asked because I got a hold of like, "Hey, I want to do a specialty workshop class through you if you guys want to allow me to hold the space and teach." And so I did that immersion that heart opening cacao primal flow class.
Yes.
Like, so many people showed up, and I was like, my heart was so full from that with the offering, and people are like so open to wanting to receive what I offered. I was like, wow, okay, you guys are beautiful. It's like, it wasn't about me at all. It was about them coming in with their intentions, what they wanted
Yeah.
experience and stuff. And so that right there was such a beautiful thing. And that is community. And we have to vibe with each other. I think it's very important. Community is very important. And, whether you hold space when someone's happy, whether you hold space when someone's sad or going through shit, like what I just explained about my experience,
Mm-hmm.
it's a place of trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I'll also say that I really appreciate about you is you come prepared. You have your theme, you have your plan, and I think people will get used to their teachers teaching a very specific style, and it can be different for someone to like take someone else's classes at a little different style. And I think what naturally happens is when you teach somewhere for a while, you sort of submerge more in the culture, and especially if you're taking other people's classes, and not that it becomes homogenized, but you sort of resonate and you develop this like coherence altogether. And so, yeah, I think it's interesting too, just like over time to see that you're still obviously offering your unique perspective and style, but I can feel the like meld and the gel going down. Can you feel that?
Yes. And I think like every opportunity, no matter what space you go in to teach, whether it's temporary or relatively long, you have to be open to grow as a teacher and as a
Mm-hmm.
student. And
Yeah.
if you can't adapt and you don't allow yourself to feel and move with, then as a teacher, you're not going to grow. You're not going to have anything to offer. You're not going to know you're teaching your students' style in their body and their body types if you don't know how to adapt to and to allow that to let yourself grow. And that's my whole thing is I am a student first.
Yeah, and you're such a gracious student too, because of course, and it wasn't anything like major, but we've had some little feedback or this or that to share with you, and you receive it almost like a gift, like it's
Mhm.
crazy, and it's really cool. It's really cool. So thank you for that. But yeah, but like, how would you describe your teaching style, if you could?
Okay, my teaching style goes into energetics, but also into what type of muscle and what type of anatomy or posture or peak posture we're going to move into. And my teaching style goes in from Booty, from Primal Flow to Luciana's like this strong core, which her teaching style also resonates all the way to Anna Forrest. And so there's
Mhm.
those culminations of all of those, and then into something that I truly feel that is unique, is teaching towards like the anatomy and almost like foreshadowing your sequencing, but also prepping your muscles to engage and open up in those areas. So my teaching style goes into intelligent sequencing, into the energetic body of like how you're feeling, what you're experiencing, the breath and how the breath feels when you engage with it. Are you shortening your breath into so you're starting to feel low energy or not? And so there's a lot of that goes into there, but it's also fun and playful. I'm like, we are too serious in class. Let's go ahead and get some movement in. So all those energetics there, because yes, yoga can be a serious thing when you're focusing on yourself and you're listening to the teacher and stuff, but also let's go ahead and like enjoy the experience.
Mhm.
Laugh, giggle at ourselves like, oh, well, I thought I could do this all the way, but this is how it's going to fit my body and be okay with it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, you do, like, crack some jokes, and but, it's not all just, like, silly, funny, but
No, it's
I
not fun
like
and
it.
play.
You bring some levity, you crack some jokes, and
You
you
know,
also do a lot of movement, like, that's different too than just your typical asana, the postures. You add some, like, shaking or a little bit of dance or, like, something in that not that I don't wanna, like, freak anyone out if you're like, "Whoa, I don't wanna shake and dance," but it's like
yeah, why was
it's
the party
yeah.
there?
I know. I'm like, and you just convulse and like your eyes roll back in your head. No, just kidding.
Oh,
No,
no, we're
you
not getting a
add
tip
these.
part either. No.
Yeah, literally, they're like, what? No, but you add these little moments of levity and these ways that it's just somatic release is like, I guess what I
Hmm.
would call it. And I feel like that definitely makes your style very unique, but yeah, very, like biomechanically focused and all that kind of stuff too, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you hope people feel, like when they leave your class?
All right. So I want them to feel I wouldn't say that's a hard question, but my
It's a tall order.
intention, yes, my intention is for the person to experience themselves in their own selves. So basically, if they come in feeling happy or sad or whatever, I want them to like feel it. If they can release it or not, don't have expectations because, when you expect something and you don't get it, then you're like, feel like you're let down. And you're like, oh God, well, Laura set this up and I didn't get the experience. No, that's not what it's about. It's about experiencing you, going to your center, to your heart, to your center space, and allowing yourself just to be in present moment, in your body, in the time you allotted yourself for yourself in the class. And whatever you get out of it afterwards, whether you feel like, okay, I feel a little light, or, well, I moved and that felt good, and that's where I'm going to be at right now.
Yeah.
So just being, not setting expectations of myself as a teacher or the student, but allowing yourself just to be.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is like your hope would be that your students could allow themselves to be who they are in their natural state,
Right.
whatever that might be on the day and in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, yoga's not like a fix it all, but a yoga gives you opportunity to bring awareness to it and that space to move through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and part of my yoga classes, going back to the previous question, is also when I prepare a class or when you get into class, and this is part of the experience too, is I also look at where the moon phase is and where like the element that's affecting our emotional bodies. So
Because
like
you're also into astrology.
so I combine that because it's all about, like, to me, it's all about the energetic experience as well, because that affects our physicality, right? So however the moon is influencing you at the time, whether, it's in fire or water and stuff like that, I will look at the moon and say, or not literally look at it, but look at where it's at. And well, I literally look at the moon too, but that's another thing. And say, okay, so this is how the moon is pushing everybody's emotions today.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're doing like astro readings and stuff for people
Hmm.
too. We'll have to connect your Instagram or something so people can book a session with you. In addition to look up her name and come to her classes. She, at the moment, I mean, our schedule always changes and you never know when someone's actually going to listen to this episode if they're not listening to it in real time. So I'll just say, look at the schedule rather than say the class and times you teach, because that might change by the time someone's listening here. But yeah, you can look up her name. But before I let you go, I do want to wrap it up and honor your time. I just want to tell you thank you so much for sharing your story, letting us get to know you a little bit more. I think it's really special for the community to hear like the person behind the class. And yeah, do you want to like let people know where they can find you? And then we'll try to remember to put those in the show notes too.
All right. So, well, you can find me on Instagram under Alorha. It's Alorha Baga Yoga, something like that. I don't even remember now. It's under Alorha Yoga underscore yoga. You can find me on Instagram for that, and also on Facebook. But more or less, it's more into the powwow aspect of my life. It's like we wear all these different hats, right? But if you're curious about that and want to learn more about that, feel free to follow me and to share not only yoga, but if you have any questions or whatever about native and stuff, native life experiences and stuff, I'm willing to be that person to answer the questions because I do sometimes put in a little bit of elements of native culture in my teachings as well when it comes to yoga. So, and then I do have a website, which is still slowly going up. I'm going to have an art gallery on the website. It's all about my teaching native dance, yoga, all of that. So the website's all about that creativity, that divine creativity, if you want to say, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, of course, find me in class. I would love to have you in class. Come join me. And I also love to be in class as a student with you.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thanks again. And thanks to everyone listening. I hope that you get a chance to practice with Alorha soon. All right, everyone. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Before we close out today's episode, we want to remind anyone who may be struggling that you are not alone and help is available. If you or someone you know is experiencing thoughts of suicide, please reach out to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by simply calling or texting 988. You'll be connected to a trained counselor any time of the day or night for free. If you or someone you know is in a situation involving abuse, you can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or text START to 88788. Their website is thehotline.org. You can also visit Crisis Text Line by texting HOME to 741-741 for free, confidential support via text. You are worthy of help, healing, and peace. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our incredible guest for sharing her story with such grace and honesty. We'll see you next episode.